You know, what I think is really fascinating is that each candidate has a sort of like a group of spiritual entities that come with them with whatever mission that person has, whatever soul path that they resonate with. There are actually, bad spirits, good spirits, angels, ancestors. I mean, so here's an example. It's really important to notice the energy that your candidate rides upon. So, long time ago when Al Gore was running for president, he looked like Superman at the time, and we were like, man, he's hot. But he also was riding on this kind of a really joyful wave of this concern for the planet at the time, and him being a climate activist as his big passion, and he was already a vice president. So it was like the energy was so high during the time period when they were counting votes between him and Baby Bush. So Baby Bush does this thing when they're counting votes at a certain point where he says, just call it. I should be the winner. I don't want him to be the winner. It was really weird. It's like a little kid. I'm done waiting. I want to be the one. And it's because we had a Supreme Court, once again, that was all in the pocket of Republicans. They voted not to continue counting the votes. And you could see in the newscasters at the time that every time it would switch to them thinking Gore was winning, because he actually, when they did finally count the votes, he had won. But they called it before they counted the votes, right? So you would see the newscasters go back and forth between thinking Al Gore had won, and there's this joy and this buoyancy and this excitement. Those were the angels also with him. The uplifting infusion of a sacred, powerful spiritual energy that he carries to protect the planet, like a planetary superhero, like Superman, you know? And then when it would seem like Baby Bush was winning, there would be sort of this pallor, like nothing, like no inspiration. Everybody's face would go dead. All of the sparkle and joy in people's eyes was gone. There was a kind of a numbness. And then in the end, we have this president who it's just like this long, nightmare of war. But, Baby Bush does do one good thing. He stopped AIDS in Africa. That is a great accomplishment. He made that his mission. But it was sort of like a pallor. So like it was almost as if with Baby Bush, there wasn't really much spiritual energy there attending him. There was nothing, kind of like a vapid nothingness, like an adolescent child who sort of just gets the job because his dad had it. Now, when you see, when Hillary Clinton was campaigning, you could see this huge wave of excitement, but there was also a kind of a warrior spirit, like a really intense fighter spirit, because she came in with a lot of energy to fight evil. So there was a fighter spirit accompanying her with warrior angels, which would confuse the lovingness of her character. But then you have baby Donald Dump, and you have the energies that come with him, and you can see them, how the energies that accompany him in the crowd are like really scary, because they're vampire spirits, and they terrify, and they disempower, and they belittle, and they shame, and it's not just him, it's like a group of evil spirits that are all trying to work with him, through him, for a really sinister agenda to take away the incredibly inspired spirit that America needs to carry forth, where other countries in the world, they have much more real democracy than we do, since our electoral college and our gerrymandering and our, takes away the people's votes. And our whole thing with letting the Supreme Court rule our lives when we don't even vote in those guys, that's got to change. I love that Biden said before he leaves office, that's one of the things he's working on, is how to reform this whole situation of the Supreme Court being supreme over the entire nation and not voted for, Excuse me. But when you see Kamala Harris coming into this story and you see this huge wave of inspired inspiration and all of these women rallying and this absolutely overwhelming joy, I get people sort of bowled away on my thread. They'll be like, I don't understand. Where's this joy coming from? Why are people so inspired and enthusiastic? Well, for one thing, we've been really worried about losing to baby Dump when Biden's speech impediment and his exhaustion started to make him unable to express himself as fiercely as he usually does and easily. And that's one reason for the joy. But another one is just that she's really a great woman. She's really an inspiring and amazing human being, that she embodies both compassion and ferocity, like the goddess Tigress, right? The Tigress who is both this loving, beautiful, passionate being and also like a, fierce protector, mama bear. Kamala, though, means lotus, right? That is the meaning of her name. It also is one of the names for the wisdom goddesses and Kali. And boy, do we need a Kali energy right now to just end the era of toxic capitalism and the era of letting men's agendas be the only agenda that's heard at the table instead of the feminine agenda being really listened to, right? So when I hear the joy around me of women like, wow, and then I hear men going, you're just jumping on a bandwagon, or what do they say? They don't get it. They're like, they don't get her record, that she's more liberal than even Biden, more liberal. And Biden's been the most liberal president in 100 years, If you look at the record, you really have to check this out. And she's more liberal, right? She wants health care for all. She wants, all kinds of things to go way further than he was planning. So those are angels, though, attending her. Those are spirits, big joy spirits of the divine feminine that are attending her. They're coming with her. And so if you feel this giant wave of energy, it is also the spiritual energy she brings in. Because all of us, each of us, bring in a spiritual energy with us. And sometimes we've got some kind of ancestor or spirit attending us that's really depressing and wrecking our lives that we have to, learn how to cut with energies and spirits that rule us and possess us, especially through alcoholism or drug use, where spirits can really work destruction into people's lives, So when you look at a convention or a talk of any candidate you're interested in, notice the wave of energy, okay? Look at how the emotional vibration moves through the crowd. If the crowd is basically, polite and numb, or if they're roaring with rage, or if they are really punitively worried, then you can see what other energies are attending this candidate and what those energies are going to help them accomplish. Because really, we can only do so much as small beings as we are. But when we unite with the spiritual energies of Great Spirit, of the other side that has our back, that is part of our lineage, then we're capable of much, much more. So I would say from the spiritual energy I'm watching moving through the crowds, through the threads of joy amongst the women, she raised in what was it, like 24 hours, it was $200 million. That was just the first hour. Like, this is how excited people are. I mean, Biden and Harris had 150 million saved up for their campaign, and then she goes on there, and in a couple hours, that's what happens. And now it's continuing because there's this wave of energy, this wave of beautiful energy, and it's joy. And there's memes about, like, I made one about her coming out of the lotus flower because that's her namesake. Others put her with the Statue of Liberty. There's beautiful memes out there, and also hateful ones. And you'll notice, like, which candidate is using hate as their attractive quality and put downs and nastiness, and which candidates are calling it like it is, and at the same time offering you a vision. So I'm really feeling a big wave of optimism, a big wave of sacred feminine magic coming along with Kamala Harris. And then people will be like, how dare you say magic? You and your, what did some guy say? He said like, oh, you and your lotus tribe of the but that's the hatred of the feminine, right? The feminine is you're never supposed to mix mysticism with politics, mix joy with politics, mix good-hearted, innocent belief with politics, right? So this is really disorienting the guys, because as women come in, as women join the story, as women vote more and more, we're bringing in this whole thing that's like taboo. Politics are supposed to be toxic and fighting and pessimistic and infighting, and that's the way men do it, because they're all into hierarchy and competition, and that's the masculine side of us women also. So, but the feminine way is inclusive. It is it's familial. It is embracing. It is feminine. We don't like competition so much. We don't like hierarchy. We don't. So when you see this wave, this huge wave of the women coming forward in their innocent, impassioned joy, don't worry. It's not that it's ungrounded, because that's the main thing that people will say. You're just pie in the sky, spiritual bypassing all this stuff. The thing is, we women have been silent for a long time because we have not been inspired, because we have not had belief and faith in somebody. And when Biden came along, we were like, oh my God, he's speaking for us. We voted for him. When Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came along, we were like, oh my God, there she is. There's the goddess speaking through this beautiful woman. I'm voting for her. And she had grassroots. 80% of her, voted for her. Grassroots, right? And you're like, where is this energy coming out of nowhere? All these women who've been silent, who haven't cared until now. Well, now the fearful feminine, the one who's been hiding in the closet, going, oh my God, these men are destroying the world, and they won't listen to me. They refuse to be influenced, no matter, because they don't like how soft I speak. They don't like how direct I speak. They don't like the fact that I disagree with them, and they just dismiss me. So I want to say to you, as we begin this campaign for Kamala Harris, if that is your candidate, which she's definitely mine, you're going to need to feel comfortable, infiltrating some of the toxic conversations going on to bring her down out of complete negativity and ignorance, without taking in her actual record, which is, by the way, very exciting. And I'll be putting out a video to just put it out for you, so a bunch of the facts of what she's done. But it's interesting to sort of, when you have a toxic person come into your thread, or not toxic, let's just say a person who disagrees with her as the candidate, and they're saying things that are slanderous with no base, and they have no alternative to offer except Kennedy, who's already prostrated to baby dump and is no longer in any way a Democrat, then you're like, well, go ahead, engage with them a little bit, try to see if you can help them see the point. But I would really recommend, don't give them as much energy as I have, because what happens is they just take down your entire thread, and they really don't have anything positive to offer or any solutions. If, on the other hand, they disagree with you and they have a solution, now that's an interesting chat, right? That's an interesting debate, because it brings up everybody's thoughts and fears to work them through inside themselves, So, when you see the nastiness of certain people who cannot handle your joy and your faith and your excitement, take heart, okay? Because, I really have this sense that right now, baby Donald Dump, with his full diaper, versus an elegant woman with a strong record of simply doing the right thing, right? You have the difference between toxic masculinity and divine femininity, the difference between poisonous, noxious capitalism and the new kind of democracy we all need to work for, that we don't have yet at all, but somebody who's willing to take it on by taxing the rich. The dichotomy is so extreme, right? It's just like, oh my God, the universe wanted to make it more obvious, because at first it was this elegant, heartfelt man, a man of heart in Biden, who has sort of a speech impediment and has overcome a stuttering proclivity, and who is really, really emotional and has tears when he speaks. That's feminine, right? So the universe first starts with that, so you can try to weigh the two kinds of men. You have the misogynistic man who really wants, or child who really doesn't care or think about anybody else, and you have the other one, Biden, who's really was thinking of the family, of the big family of all of us, needs to be taken care of. Those are really pretty extreme. But when you put Kamala Harris next to the baby Dump, like, you have it's like having the supreme mother in the room with like some kid who's, like farting and pooping in their pants in the classroom, like throwing things at the wall. Like, it's just, you couldn't have a more extreme way, thing to choose from. And if you are for the baby, the dumper, then it's your proclivity it's your right, of course, to say, I whatever you believe, because I think in the end, even people who are on opposite sides, everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants better wages. Everybody wants to be safe. Everybody wants the wars to stop. Everybody wants, to have a roof over their head that's affordable, and people think different candidates are going to accomplish that for them, right? But if you can think of baby Dump as playing a role for the divine, you can think of it in two ways. One is a whole bunch of evil spirits, just like in all the movies that Hollywood makes about the apocalypse, that you have apocalyptic Matrix style spirits attending baby Dump to try to accomplish the goal of owning people's spirits through making them think everybody else is Illuminati and going to, put chips in their bodies and turn them into robots. I was just like in a place of the world where that people are really thinking those thoughts, because that's what that candidate is all about. And those are the kinds of memes and videos you fall down what's called pretty much a click funnel. So I don't know if you realize this. If you click on really anti, say, Kamala ads once or twice, you will get flooded with nothing but that from now on. And you'll think that that's the truth of the universe. That's why polls are no longer, you really can't trust them anymore, because you're just in your click funnel. It's an algorithm that you've created for yourself. Then if you work to the other side, you start clicking on things that are pro Kamala, you'll start to see all these things about what her record is, what her liberal desire is to take further what Biden's done, and you can see, well, maybe this is set up like a play in the universe. Like, the whole thing is set up as a drama, since we're in a realm that is both negative and positive, light and dark, pain and pleasure, love and hate. Like, this is this realm of this world, right? And there's something about coming to this part of the galaxy where we're trying to learn. I think we're trying to learn the difference between the two, to really understand love, to really understand how can we have freedom of choice and knowledge, rather than either or. You have knowledge, now you're going to suffer, you're thrown out of the garden. But what if you could have knowledge of what love is and what suffering is and what causes suffering, and that gave you power in your future incarnations to create worlds that are really more protected in terms of the wisdom it takes to keep siding with the part of us that is loving and kind, and keep being willing to integrate our masculine and feminine sides as both important, both absolutely necessary for our functionality and our heartfelt dignity, right? So I'm just excited for us because I can see these incredibly uplifting they're almost like angels. Like, there are these spirits attending the Kamala Harris movement, that one of the things I think she's coming in to do is to end the genocide of the Palestinian people. I think she has that really tough prosecutor side that will be able to just deal with the Israeli government in the way that we've always been like, oh, we have to side with them. I think she's going to be able to cut through a lot of different situations where it's just bullshit, and you just can't go with anything but the truth, anything but love, you know? So I think that, to me, that's the only thing that Biden really, really failed on. He could have really given sanctions and no weapons to Israel, and I wish that he had done that sooner. But look, we've got a couple more months with him still doing everything he can, and I would not be surprised if he actually does manage to end that war before he leaves. So if he doesn't, hopefully Kamala Harris will. And we also have to remember, those aren't their wars. They didn't start them. They're humans, and they're dealing with all kinds of people around them stopping Biden, from many things he wants to do. He's got to work with people to get them on board, and he has had the highest bipartisan record of any president. And isn't it amazing? Like, he got more done than the last 5 presidents did combined. Now, that's a fact. So look it up and look and see what that means, right? So when you look at Kamala Harris, and she might face some really big challenges, because are those white men, so many of them around her, going to listen to her? Are they going to be willing to be influenced by her? Is she going to be able to work bipartisan? Well, the thing is, she's surrounded by the team that she and Biden created, which is an incredibly effective team. So I'm really excited to see what she accomplishes and what we all accomplish by voting for her. I really hope that she is, I really hope she's the one. Yeah, I think the angels, spirits, ancestors attending her are incredibly loving and fierce, powerful, divine feminine healing spirits. And I feel like they are the exact polarity to Baby Dump's collection of demons, gremlins, vampires, and but that's how I think. I'm in the theater. I think of epic stories, and I feel like we're in one right now. And the thing is to keep your center, because we are actors and actresses, and we are writing this story. So when you say, or if you said, or someone near you said, there's no difference between the characters, the insanity of that is really sad, because look at Al Gore. That's what all the men were saying around me. I was in California at the time with a whole bunch of radical hippies, supposedly people from the 60s. And they would just sit around in their big overstuffed chairs and say, there's no difference between Baby Bush and Al Gore. Now, the insanity of that is so incredible when you look at what life would be like right now with that one man, Al Gore, who was so different than the lazy Baby Bush with no vision, really, because he would have addressed climate change 30 years ago, we would be so ahead of the story right now. All of the floods and the fires and the, devastation of people's homes. Imagine the thousands and thousands of people all over the world dealing now with drought and floods. All of that would have been slightly different, and maybe very different, from one person being so different than the other candidate. So the lie that there's no difference between these candidates who carry with them completely different streams of energy, waves of emotions, inspiration or desperation, you mustn't be pulled down by that concept that there's no difference, that all politicians are corrupt. Look, democracy is set up to be corrupt right now. It's because it's not fully democratic, but we can fix that. Right? We can fix all of the paying off of politicians to get them to comply, Well, am I just over the top positive? Is this just like, oh God, women are so ungrounded? There's just little girls, in their fluffy dresses dancing around saying, fairies, fairies. I'm one of them. I will be in my fluffy, divine feminine little dress with my little wand in my dreams tonight, because that's where it all really happens, is in our imaginations. I will be there, and I will be, raining down little sprinkles to create the new world. And if you think that spirituality does not have an impact, and I'm not talking religion, because religion does separate us, but the spiritual dimension of who we all are, that's what we need to tap into. Your hope, your belief, your joy, your inspiration, your fundamental good ideas being shared. Because you're part of this story, and you were born here at this time on the planet for a reason. And when you feel depressed, and when you feel sick, and when your body starts to fester with, a real depressive illness, it's usually because you're not living into your calling. And when you do, the impact on your body will be so profound you can hardly even believe it. So what is the dream of your role to play in this planetary story right now that you think is impossible? So one of mine is, I have been called to be not just a muralist for creating portals for the divine feminine. That's one of them. But the other one is to be a dancer and a singer, creating these sacred rituals for a sacred goddess. Now, that to me is so scary at this point, where my body's like really overweight, and I'm pretty sick, and I'm pretty tired, and I'm 60, and it's like dancing in front of people. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. But the calling, the fact that I deny that calling has been making me more and more immobile, and more overweight, and more depressed. And so as I've been saying yes to that little by little, like someday I'll be able to do yoga again. Someday I'll be able to dance around in my kitchen again. Just someday I'll be able to take a dance class again. Just those thoughts. Because you got to start really small with your mission. At first, just take the baby steps, because the baby steps, like right now, I'm so afraid to go out to an ecstatic dance and be lonely there, and then not be able to hardly move at all and look like a little fat toad rolling around the floor. Like, I just don't, that's a nightmare, But the calling to the sacred dance, the dance for the goddess, of the goddess, is a very deep river that I fell into when I finished the Green Tara. And the Green Tara the painting was called to go to a Tara dance retreat that I was welcomed to be at as a guest for that weekend, to dance the ancient Tibetan dances, prayers to the divine feminine, to Tara. And as I danced those dances, which mercifully were made for old ladies like me to be able to do them, oh, what a mercy. I felt my path like, bam, land, like, oh my God, it's okay. the limits I have are okay. They don't have to stop me from this incredible calling I've been feeling since I was 13 years old about the sacred dance, right? It's finally coming into being, and there's also a dance I need to create along with learning those ancient dances. So, the absurdity of your calling is all I'm saying. And part of me is like, well, that will make no difference. How will that help the planet? If I'm just doing dancing in my princess outfit, how ridiculous, you know? But the divine feminine for thousands of years danced, and it was drumming with her dance, and the dance was not always just pure, and it was sometimes really sexy, really erotic, and those dances, to me, you know, actually feed the gods, feed both the male and female gods, feed them back, and then they create another portal level for the community that arises the joy and connects the community, and awakens the divine feminine and honors her, and allows the masculine to interact in a divine way and dance with her where there's a synergy instead of a fight, you know. So what I'm trying to say is that the esoteric levels of what you want to do, I always bring it back to cookies, because I know of a woman, an old friend, who created a cookie business that supported her, still supporting her whole family. And it is such a delicious cookie. And it is such a rich and healthy cookie. And it is such an alternative to all the gluten-free people, you know. And that act that she did, following her joy as a baker, has changed the health level of all of these people like me. I have celiac sprue, so if I want a cookie, and the only cookies I have are ones that put me into 3 days of pain, sometimes I'll eat those cookies just because I can't live life without a cookie, you know. But she makes these cookies, and now my health has risen, and my mission is different because of her cookies, right? Thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you for trusting the joy, the magic, the big, huge wave that Kamala Harris is coming in on is the wave of many, many people's thoughts, hopes, dreams, and talents coming together to create this new democracy, this new world. And it is an exciting time because we can do this, and she can win, and she already has in my heart. Okay, bless you. Thank you for being with me. I really appreciate your time.